Do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Put myself up behind there. Hello, folks. How are you? You probably see me down the bottom corner of your screen there. It's been a very sad day. We woke up to the news that Charlie had been shot. Depending on what time you wake up, you were awake before it, or you heard all about it. And some of you may have heard and or seen it live. It was streamed. It's a very, very sad day, and it's going to have some very severe impacts on America and I think potentially broader afield. To that end, I've been lucky enough to secure a little bit of time with an old mate of mine named Ben, who is on the Twitter Spaces, amongst other places, but he has had a bit of experience overseas. Unfortunately, we've only just finished recording this interview, so and thankfully we did, because I outed him. I used his full name at the introduction of it. So I'll just hit the button and we shall get into it for the next half an hour or so, and I'll be back after that. But you've only missed me outing him, doxing him by his full name. And he starts, I think, referring to how we know each other.
We did a few things, and that was great. And we touched base a long time ago now, before a couple of elections, and that was excellent. And then we also hooked up at a Freedom Ball. We've also been to the Tucker event. So, yeah, I've been there watching you achieve what you've done of late as well, and everything with my house and all of that stuff as well. So it's been fantastic. And I think you've held your own, Carl. You've been up against it, but you've held your own, and you've lasted. Most importantly, you've lasted. Plenty of others have fallen away, but you've found your own lane. And I think that's because you're bringing the people the information they deserve to hear.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. It's very kind words indeed. And I'm only here because of the deep family that we have scattered across the nation, a lot of whom spend a bit of time with us in the chat every night when we've got a show going. So. And I have so many of those people are in my phone now as friends. There aren't too many places in the country I can't go and bump into someone that knows me or knows the show or is very interested in learning about it. So I've really only got the people to thank for that, and I'm indebted and very grateful and thankful to them. As
Carl,
for the others,
Carl, just on that point, mate, that's because I think you live in an Australia where there is community. There's community spirit, and people can seek out others who are like-minded, and they quickly become fast friends, and they quickly solidify a bond as well, Carl. And what you and those people are absolutely detesting is the fact that now in Australia, those types of communities are being relegated and they're being diminished, and we would like to see a resurgence of them and of that community feeling and that true inclusion as well, mate, because that's family. And everyone looks after one another.
I agree. And unfortunately, those sorts of communities, be they your regular neighborhood kind of community or something like I've been a part of here in the Gold Coast hinterland for the last year or so, they get infiltrated, or people start off believing in how it should all work. But when their idea doesn't get adopted or their particular thing doesn't get agreed to by the group, then all of a sudden factions start and politics begins. And I've got to say, In my experience, particularly my personal experience, politics is of a very childish nature, or a very childish but dark and evil nature. And I'll have a lot more to talk about that one day. Ben, I'm writing a book, mate. You'll be very proud of me.
Well, you know, the content almost writes itself when you're trying to expose and talk about the shenanigans the government has been up to. But what's interesting, Carl, is there's a lot of division in Australia taking place at the moment. We just saw what happened on Bondi Beach on Father's Day of all days, for example, where you had a very interesting scene. It wasn't necessarily Braveheart, but it was reminiscent of Braveheart, where you had a man on horseback, but instead of carrying a Scottish flag, he was carrying a Palestinian flag. And he was upsetting a few other people that were there in attendance that were at the beach for a different reason on that day. But what was surprising to myself is you had many people also there with Australian flags, but then many, many more people, once again, with Israeli flags, Carl. So it seemed that there's some type of combat going on between people who are pro-Israel and people who are pro-Palestine here in Australia. And Australians are just having to sort of deal with the fallout of that. Because our government has been unable to deal with it.
You can't express a view that doesn't agree with Israel's at the moment in Australia, particularly if you're working in this sphere, or if you are even, dare I say it, in the mainstream media, where they're never likely to truly criticize. I mean, Netanyahu attacked a sovereign nation yesterday and killed however many Hamas leaders were there for peace talks or negotiations with the Americans to get out of town. Now, how true they were going to be in those negotiations, how real that really was, or is it time wasting or whatever, I don't know. But Benjamin Netanyahu has taken full responsibility for that. Didn't say anything about asking the Americans to do it. He just went and did it and attacked a sovereign nation, an Arab sovereign nation. That could have some fairly significant ramifications. And at the moment,
one would think
Jewish sentiment around the world, Ben, is changing with what's happened in Gaza and the relentless attack that's going on there. There'll be powder left of the place. I don't know if you're aware of where these people who live in Gaza, these Palestinian folks that are going to be taken by under Donald Trump's wing, apparently, and Benjamin Netanyahu's, and they'll be whisked off to somewhere beautiful. They won't have to worry about it. It'll be a beautiful place. And while that's happening, Gaza will be cleaned up. And I take that to mean they're going to dig a big trench in it and fill it full of water. So what are your thoughts on how Jewish sentiment at the moment seems to be changing?
Well, it's certainly changing. There's a great noticing which is taking place, largely as a result of what many argue is a disproportionate response to what took place on October 7th. And because they have been undeterred in their response and the obliteration of what was formerly known as Gaza, many people in the international community, where they once may have been tolerant or somehow found favor with the nation state of Israel, they've had to question that because of the actions of the IDF and Benjamin Netanyahu and his insistence to continue it until the job is done. So I think the question to be asked is, does Israel's response deter future creation of jihadis, or does it in fact inspire the future creation of jihadis simply via the collateral damage alone? And at that point, you understand that this game will never end, Carl. It will continue. In regards to the most recent bombing, Israel says that was a preemptive strike. That was to deter any type of future aspiration for an assault against the people of Israel. So therefore, it was a justified act of war, according to Netanyahu. But for the people who were there in attendance and their family members and the people just in close proximity to it who were obliterated, they feel it was an act of terror. So I'm unsure how this will resolve itself, Carl, but it seems to be Israel's foreign policy can continue on unimpeded. And in many cases, as you pointed out, it appears our government and many other Western governments fall in line.
What should happen if Saudi Arabia, let's say, decided that they found a cell in downtown Jerusalem that was plotting some kind of attack on Saudi Arabian soil, similar to what has happened in Qatar, and they decided to hit that cell? Do you think, A, it would be possible, and B, what would be the ramifications of that?
Well, once again, if they, excuse me, once again, if they conduct the operation, they don't care whatever the fallout is. They've already made that determination. And even if there are people who object to it, even people within their own government who object to it after the fact, it still will not matter, because who was dead is now dead, and that is done, and they've moved on to something else. So, but if the Saudis did it, would there be some type of scrutiny placed on them that is not placed on Israel, for example, for committing a similar attack? Yes.
Yeah.
I think there is a double standard there. And whereas several media conglomerates around the world have been very quick to always support Israel's decisions, even the BBC of late has found themselves exposed by their inherent bias in presenting what's actually taking place over there for their viewing audience.
So let's get on to the reason we started chatting today, the terrible events of today, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, while you haven't worked with him, you have been to the States. You spent time there during the Trump election campaign and during, in fact, the election. And you've met a lot of people who've had a lot of things to do with him, and other folks you've worked with have been close. What's your take on what's happened today?
I think the news hit me like a truck, because immediately, Carl, I thought of the people I know who have worked with Charlie and who are still working with Charlie. And they're obviously utterly distraught. Their whole world has been ripped away from them. There's so many layers to this as well. So he was important for a greater movement than himself, something that was far larger than himself. It was an idea, and it was captivating the hearts of minds of tens of millions of young Americans, and many, including Donald Trump and his very own family members, believe he was instrumental in Donald Trump being successful in the last election. Without Charlie Kirk's assistance and what he was doing on university campuses and changing the minds and hearts and minds of some boomers, perhaps, that were left-leaning. So Charlie Kirk, at that level, he's irreplaceable. But for the people that worked with him as well, everything about their day-to-day activities and day-to-day operations, well, it's rudderless at the moment. And everyone knows no one can fill that void. But then more importantly than all of that, this all took place in front of his wife and children. And at the end of the day, that's who he was, and that's who he believed he was, and that was his most cherished thing in the world. Everything else was just hobbies for him, in a sense. His family was who he was. And to think that it had happened in such a brutal fashion as well, Carl. Like, it was pretty hardcore the way it went down, and just because of the ejection of the blood.
I have the video here. I can play it. I'm just wondering if it's a bit of bad taste this early.
Well, I can tell you, if you play the one from a distance, it's only about 4 seconds. That should be fine. But if you play the one that's almost a close-up, which shows the actual full impact and the ejection, I know that one is going to be flagged across all social media platforms because he is deceased now, and because it is considered an assassination. So it's the equivalent of sharing an ISIS beheading video according to guidelines and standards. So if it's the shorter one where it doesn't show that's fine. Because people do deserve to see it. But people
I
do
think
deserve
people
to see
do.
it.
But
If they would like to see it, I think they should be free to see it.
Yeah, I agree. But I've been looking at it for the last half an hour or so. I've been watching it frame by frame. It's quite clear that Charlie was wearing a bulletproof vest, and he was shot center mass. That bullet has ricocheted and gone up and hit his neck, quite clearly, and it's hit, something pretty significant on the way through, and he, well, obviously bled out, or they did try and stop it. Here's an interesting question. There was no medical people on site. There was no ambulance at
No
the university
EMS.
campus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
none.
EMS, no precautions taken.
He had
So
his own
security.
security team, but apparently no medical with that.
Yeah, that's right. But even you ordinarily suspect, we understand, even if you're organising a protest and there's going to be so many people in attendance, you have to provide certain accommodations to potentially deal with a crisis situation, or at least the emergency services, the police in attendance at these events, they're looking out to respond if something like that does take place. So in this case, yes, there was none of that present there for Charlie. In fact, he was dragged off the stage, obviously in a very bad state, and put into the back of an SUV and quickly driven away. And that was unfortunate because there was no way to be able to stop the bleeding. Now, initially, when people did see it, they thought that Charlie was shot in the neck. But as you said, Carl, other people have since come out and said, no, Charlie's been wearing body armor for some time now because he was concerned about something potentially, and they thought that was going to mitigate whatever that concern was. And so whoever fired the bullet, yes, it was meant to be targeted directly at his heart, where it struck the armor plating and then ricocheted up into the neck. But it was instantaneous when you're watching it on camera. And within it was instantaneous, ladies and gentlemen. There was no coming back from that. It was extremely unfortunate. Many people have said that.
Unsurvivable wound. Unsurvivable wound. Yeah.
Yeah, this wasn't anywhere near a Trump graze. This was totally different. But about 30 seconds prior to it unfortunately happening, Carl, Charlie Kirk was reminding the crowd and giving a testimony of his faith and belief in Jesus Christ, would you believe? So he literally almost gave his vow of who he is, what he stands for, and Jesus Christ is real and he's our savior.
And
he was also asked the question about the trans. Yes, go on to that, Carl.
Yeah, I beg your pardon. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. The question, which when I heard it asked, I thought that is the cue for the shooter. So the question asked was, are you still in agreement, or do you still believe that there are more trans shooters responsible for the assassinations or shooting people than anything else? And I think he said yes. And that was about the last thing that he said. So
yeah, it's quite extraordinary. Many people because as of now we are unsure as to. We can think we've got an idea, but according to officialdom, right, Carl? We're unsure as to the motive. We're unsure as to who the perpetrator was. We're unsure if the perpetrator was assisted by anyone. We're unsure if the perpetrator was known to Charlie, etc., etc. So
I can tell you what we are sure of.
Total mystery at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, I can tell you what we are sure of.
Yeah.
We're sure that the two people that were detained in relation to this matter have nothing to do with it. The FBI are really good at detaining people who have nothing to do with what's going on and letting the other bloke get away. Funnily enough, the Victoria Police have that same sort of issue happening at the moment, don't they, with Desi? But I want to keep going on Charlie. One of the things
let me ask you, Carl, for a second then. So we'll back up there for a moment. If the shooter wasn't known to anybody and there was a complete breakdown in security protocol, once again, are we to believe there were no aerial drones there even capturing the event? Kids have drones. If you've got 10,000 kids in attendance, all with their camera phones out, there's at least one kid there on campus with the drones up in the air, it's capturing things. We could think Charlie's security team would have it, only because maybe a light bulb would have gone off in some of their heads after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Hey guys, maybe roofs are just a bad idea. We should add that to the protocol just to ensure. And this wasn't miles away. Once again, it was 200 yards. But yeah, Carl, if it was allowed to happen so easily, mate, what are your concerns?
And the person gets away. This brings into
that's the issue.
Something you've alluded or mentioned there before, and we were talking about Israel's influence and their influence in American politics is significant. Charlie has been saying, and he's been quoted as saying, that he expected if he was to be shot or assassinated, it would be by Israel.
There's many clips coming out now where people are being able to sort of put the pieces together, and they're saying Charlie is almost now appearing to give a different type of messaging to what he'd previously given in regards to what was taking place with the conflict and the foreign policy decision making of the United States government. And all in consideration to, well, how much are we providing assistance to Israel, and is that beneficial to us, and why are we doing so? And more importantly, are we allowed to question it? And so Charlie wasn't going full noticing, talking about kosher sewer tunnels in New York City and what's going on there. But he was now starting to question the impact of subversive Jewish groups, Jewish-funded Marxist groups in the United States who have infiltrated academia and who have poisoned the minds of all these kids in the school, who are now ending up as radical Marxists on university campuses. So, yes, he was starting to draw attention to where's this being orchestrated from, but more importantly, who's funding it. And one question he recently raised is, what are all these secularist Jews pushing this anti-white Marxist agenda in this country for, when now it's come full circle and you've got all these pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel kids on university campuses, and the true Israeli lobby, the ones who are funding the DNC and the RNC, control all the lobbyists, the AIPAC types, they're wondering what the hell is going on. And so Charlie was trying to find a solution to this as well, Carl. And that was going to be problematic, because by merely entertaining the conversation, it shows that he is not in 100% lockstep alignment with Israel. And perhaps he may not be their best cheerleader any longer. And there may have been some concerns by some influential people, which is understandable in the Israeli sphere, that if such a public figure, such a public promoter of Israel, somehow is no longer able to promote them as well as he has done previously, that may impact them going down the track. And when you're talking about what's going to happen, sorry, Carl, I'll let you go on, mate.
The big question I have at the moment is, what are these millions of young American men who, for the first time, they're conservative, they've been empowered in their conservatism, and they have been restrained hitherto by Charlie Kirk and others from picking up their cherished weapons? Are we even right to consider to have concerns that now this has turned into a shooting match, there might be some return fire?
That's all speaking about filling the void, Carl. These people are grieving right now, and they're also frustrated, but more importantly, they're extremely angry. They think this has been festering. They think they've been seeing it take place, and they think successive administrations have been unable, more importantly, unwilling to dissolve it. And it has led to this. And yes, are there going to be thousands of young men out there that are saying it's time to lock and load? Absolutely. Absolutely there are. And are there going to be instances in the days going forward where you will have some radical leftists who are cheerleading publicly what's happening to Charlie in front of people who they consider fans of Charlie, just to upset those people? Yes, we are going to see that, because Charlie has already been determined to be a martyr by many within his side of the movement. They think it is an act of martyrdom which has taken place. But then you're going to have the godless left atheists who not only denigrate God, now laugh at the so-called martyrdom and cheerlead it. And that's going to cause some people to respond. And I suspect they will respond with fists. And that may be acceptable and justified, but that's minor. But you can extrapolate that out. If there is any guns in play, well, yes, certainly. But who's going to fill this void? Who's going to be able to pacify it? Well, no one immediately. And then also, well, who steps onto stage as Turning Point USA has to continue going forward? Now, Ben Shapiro cannot be that, because Charlie Kirk has distinguished himself as vastly different than Ben Shapiro. He is not
Yeah.
Daily Wire. He's doing his own thing. They're still mates or whatever, but no, different. So who can fill the void? Well, Stephen Crowder can't come in and fill that void. Tim Pool can't come in and fill that void. Nick Fuentes certainly cannot come on and fill that void. He's too far for them to consider. So the only individual that anyone could think would even be able to step on the stage immediately in the interim would be somebody like Matt Walsh. But Matt Walsh is 10 years too old as well, Carl. Charlie Kirk was 31 trying
31.
to help the minds and assist the minds and development of 18 to 21-year-olds primarily, university attendees. Matt Walsh is 40 plus. So he's a little bit past them. So who's going to fill that void? Because until, as you say, Carl, until someone fills that void, you have a lot of hungry people out there that are looking for retribution.
In the next 24, 48 hours, what odds do you think you'd give on them finding the shooter in this case?
I'm still waiting for the 1 minute of the Epstein tape that they said wasn't there, but then was there, and then this one's there. So can we get that one first?
Yeah, mate.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess there is a fair bit of lining up there that's got to be done. Hey, so I do apologize.
You spoke about the two individuals that were present that the police apprehended, and in extraordinary circumstances as well. One was an elderly man with his pants around his ankles. Who knows what he was doing, but was he screaming at the sky or whatever he was doing, Carl? And then another young person. And but also you had a transsexual, a fetish inclined individual. You had a fetish inclined individual.
You know all the words, don't you?
Well, I was trying to think. Can you say tranny? Can you not? So anyway,
I think you can say tranny. That's fine.
Good.
Yeah.
You had one of those individuals who was on Twitter.
Ford. Mention Ford in the same sentence.
Yes. Well, that's a transaxle, Carl. So we'll talk about Guns N' Roses if we're talking about axles, mate. But yes, that individual came on out and they put something on Twitter saying, "Ha, Charlie's coming to my campus. He better get ready." And then a follow-up a day later to that was, "Ha, we've got our ducks in a line," so to speak. And some people had reported that whoever the police had apprehended, because many people had flagged these suspicious posts from people in the days leading up to what's just taken place, and the police have then apprehended them, interviewed them, and all of these people have been since set free. So once again, Carl, people are asking, who done it? Is this going to be an ultimate who done it? It's almost inconceivable that it is going to be a who done it. I think questions will be asked for a very long time. The other amazing thing about this is now Charlie Kirk is inextricably going to be tied in with memories of 9/11, because Charlie Kirk was assassinated in 9/11 here in Australia, but it was only the 10th in America. So they're still about to grieve on a 25th year anniversary tomorrow for what took place in 9/11. Many people believe that the perpetrators of what took place on 9/11 weren't Bin Laden, a guy in a cave, and these other guys hijacking planes. They believe it was orchestrated by a different entity alone. And some of those people who have that belief also believe that perhaps Charlie Kirk presented a future threat to that entity, and therefore it's beneficial for them for Charlie to no longer exist, just as World Trade Center and Building 7 no longer exists. It's amazing, Carl, this way we're at.
In gold that was hiding in there at the time, but what do we know about that?
You've been watching Die Hard 3 too much, Carl. I think that gold was only there in Die Hard. I was told. Larry Silverstein told me personally that there was no gold, and that's why he needed his insurance payout, because a lot of his gold, which he thought was there, wasn't there. They lied to him. And a lot of the gold at Fort Knox, have they still determined what's at Fort Knox, Carl? I know Trump was trying to get to the bottom of that some time ago.
Yeah. No, and Elon Musk went quiet on it shortly after he said we should live stream it. That's that all
Yeah,
died.
but what's going to happen in America as a result of Charlie Kirk? Well, people are going to be pissed and people are going to seek retribution. Something's going to have to be done about it. Trump's immediately come out and said this is a result of crazy radical leftists who are continuously calling people Nazis and demonizing people. So naturally, it inspires maniacs out there to do these horrendous acts. And therefore, people are saying, well, Trump, if you're dead serious about it, let's see you send them out right now. Let's crush Antifa once and for all. Let's crush this parasitical left that has infected our institutions and our children's minds, that is ruining our societies. And until we do that, we will not be able to stamp it out. But it needs to be done, because if it is not done, just as they shot Charlie Kirk, they will shoot you and your families. They want you dead. They want to take over the world. That is their belief system, according to them who say so. And that's the way it is. So America's got trouble on its hands. But when did America not have trouble on its hands, Carl? Internally or externally?
I can't remember a time, and you put it very, very well, my friend. I know you've got places to be, so do I. So
Yes.
I'd like to thank you very much for spending a bit of time. It's been a very enjoyable chat. We should do this much more often. Before I let you go, give Australian Talk a bit of a plug. How do people find it on? Well, guess you've got the @ symbol, so it's got something to do with Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days.
Yes, they can simply just jump onto X and go to @Australian Talk. If they'd like to reach out, by all means, they can. I do Twitter Spaces as well, which is a little bit like Talkback Radio or public forums on X. So you're welcome to come in and participate in those if you'd like to.
I do get the odd invite, and it's usually in the evenings when my battery's gone well and truly flat. So I apologise I don't turn up in too many of yours, mate. But
no,
I will
that's not an issue. The great thing is many Australians now are doing them. There's very regular Twitter Spaces almost every single evening between anywhere from sort of 8 p.m. through until 2 a.m. where people from all over the country come to talk about all different issues. And you've got left-leaning people, right-leaning people, pro-Albo, pro-Dutton types even still, Carl, people that want to throw overboard the entire thing. All of the people that were instrumental in orchestrating what took place on the 31st in the various cities around the country, they're all there constantly as well, and speaking with the people and figuring out plans and ideas and bringing people up to speed with what they think is good. And so come on board, jump on board. If you're not on X, get on X. It's the true only free speech platform still available to us until Julian Grant, our internet czar, decides she's going to try to eliminate us unless we submit and give our fingerprints and biometrics and whatever else they want, Carl. I think they want to crawl up into your ass and take everything, man. Like, it's ridiculous.
And they're going to use the largest microscope they can find to find everything. They're going to scrape your ass clean.
Like Chinese COVID tests or whatever.
Thanks, mate. Bloody great to talk to you.
All the best, Carl. See you, mate.
Cheers, mate. All right, I'll bring myself back up live. Thanks to Ben for having a bit of a chat. And yes, it was quite the race to get that sorted, get him sort of half anonymized, if you like, and get to you on time. Been watching your chat through there. I've started a couple of comments, which I think I will get back to at some stage the later on. Samantha, the moment the world chooses to respond in anger and violence, we lose. But if we don't respond, we lose. How right you are. We find ourselves in a very strange position. Speaking of losing, Paul Offy lost yesterday, and the jury found him guilty on 2 charges of driving at police. Now, nobody could have been more surprised outside of Paul than the judge and the prosecution, who I don't think were expecting that verdict in any way, shape or form. I've received, as many of you may have received, exactly the same text as I'm about to read you, but it is a full and complete update of what's happened from Michael Offy and the Offy family. It says, well, after almost 3 weeks at Supreme Court trial, the jury, to the surprise of many, found Paul guilty of being reckless about potential risk while driving at or near police officers, in brackets, who admittedly stepped up to the truck in a confusing and unclear manner, brackets. Yesterday, after the verdict, the prosecution decided to drop all 5 remaining charges and stated they were not going to be asking for a custodial sentence as the actions were on the lowest end of the range of the charge. And this is a key point. These charges were at the very lowest end for such severe consequences. Today, the judge gave an in-depth background on his final sentencing verdict that made it clear that it was more of a misunderstanding or a mistake, and clearly no intention from Paul to risk or harm anyone or anything. His final sentence was that Paul gets a $1,000 fine for each count of the charge. There were 2 charges. Realistically, it's a very low fine for that charge, which has a maximum sentence of 15 years jail per charge. So while a little disappointing that the jury decided he was guilty, it overall was a good result and a good decision from the judge in how he handed that down. A pity it took 3.5 years to get to this, and the expense and time of the Supreme Court, all its resources. Jury for some 3 weeks, all over charges, and the resources of the jury for some 3 weeks, all over charges that realistically should never have been laid, other than for the fact that someone thought they should seize Paul's truck and add those extra charges 2 and 8 months after to support the seizure of Paul's truck. That's Paul's only real asset, the only thing he had in life. Decided to destroy that and destroy his startup chauffeuring business as well. On the point of the seizure, this current jury verdict means the ACT keeps the truck and will dispose of it within a short space of time. The overall situation still amounts to a complete abuse of process and malicious prosecution. Thankfully, at least the prosecutor and the judge finally saw some sense and obviously realised it was a significant overreach. The Offys would like to thank everyone for their continued support, especially the numerous witnesses that travelled from all across Australia to testify in the court, and a special thanks to those who came to the court to support Paul and his team through the rest of the trial. The boys would also like to thank God for his undeniable and continued presence throughout this trial, and the hundreds of people who have been praying all the way through. Many things happened along the 3 weeks that were nothing other than answers to prayers. There'll be more updates to come in the near future, and there is a lovely picture of the team outside the Supreme Court in Canberra after they left. A great team down there, and congrats to Michael Gray Griffith, who has been there the whole time, I think, and bloody great effort. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but because of things going on here, I was unable to attend. Speaking of things going on here, I can't really send the video to you now. Boy, been mad around here, been removing things. Today, the things we removed required cranes and trucks and heavy men's business. It was a lot of fun, a lot of interesting things, learnt new and interesting had new and interesting experiences and learnt new skills. So I want to be clear and a little bit happy about that. However, I'm freaking worn out. So today has been a dash. I haven't had time to, other than go and sit down and start to analyse what's happened with the Charlie Kirk thing. There is probably other news today because there is other lies that need to be shared. Our government leads the pack in that field. I mean, lying to we the people. And that's why you turning up at an event this weekend, supposedly about uniting Australians against government corruption, is so important. We need so many of you on the streets. Unfortunately, we need all of you on the streets. Unfortunately, who you'll be on the streets for won't be necessarily apparent, because there are so many people running around putting on their own little ego-boosting shows that you'll be lost in the crowds. And look, I don't really care at the end of the day. I explained my reasonings last night, particularly for what's going on in Sydney. For a variety of reasons, I think there's going to be more talk about the actual point of this march, the setup for this march, which is, government corruption and how we've had enough of it. I think more of that's going to be happening on the other stage that's been set up than the one the original organisers maybe had planned. But I hope not. I hope the original organisers do have some significant resources to plough into that very problem and some suggestions on what to do about it, suggestions on how to move forward. As I've told you in last night's show, this is an old communist ploy that's being played out by an old communist and a new communist or a young communist. And they've enlisted a lot of people who are trying to get a foothold in the business of what we do, to come along and have a chat. Some of them have already got a foothold. Some of them have got audiences. Some of them don't. But I can guarantee you all of them are motivated to lift their audience. And if you haven't, seen John's channel, he's got 108 subscribers. And I'm not having a go at that. It doesn't matter how many subscribers one has, unless you're going to try and subvert a rally based on the fact that you're very, very popular. 108 subscribers on your YouTube channel doesn't necessarily make you that popular. There may be a Rumble channel that's got a few more. There might be other channels that have got a few more with people joining. I know that I have a number of channels. They all have a different amount of subscribers to them, but I like to think everybody, if you haven't, you've been past the main channel and subscribed there, which is youtube.com/@VOF. Love to have you along. Put a thumbs up, like and share this program and the others that we have around. Hoodie has put a post out, has he? KVT1. Sorry, that's a mouthful. KVT1. Hoodie's put a post out saying it's going to be about anti-government corruption. I hope so. I've pushed it very hard to Mary Jane privately. That I really hope that the speakers can stay on the topic of what this is about and push it forward. But regardless, Sydney's in for a shit fight. I beg your pardon. They're in for a show, and that's exactly what it is. It's being viewed by the other side as a show, and this is how they milk that show for followers. Not so much followers. They're doing this to try and boost their own ego. There's been a parade held in Sydney and we weren't asked to lead it, or we weren't asked to be in it. And now we're going to spit the dummy and throw all our toys out of the cot and have our own parade. And it's going to be a bigger parade. And it's going to have a bigger speaker system. It's going to have big screens. And there'll be important people saying important things that the people want to hear. All 108 of them subscribe to the channel. So I'm just sad that division has had to rear its head. It's not division, it's ego. It's ego. And if anybody ever wants me to prove that publicly, I'm very happy to. But I can prove 100% that it's ego. It's just sad. Gold is down from what it was last night. In fact, it's about a little over $20 down from what we had it on last night. It was over 5,500 last night. Now it's just under at $5,487.98. I guess these other people who are putting on all sorts of shit and casting aspersions at everybody might think that Ainsley Bullion are manipulating the gold and silver price to their benefit. Don't think that's the case. 62.08 is the spot price for silver. That's dropped down a little bit in the last little while, and I would expect it might stay this way at least until tomorrow or Saturday morning. Might even go down a little further. But whatever you do, if you've got a spare spot price of silver, go and buy yourself a 1 ounce coin. If you've got a bit more, go and buy yourself a little bit more. But you will only benefit in the long run from owning any amount of it. The more you own, the bigger benefit you are going to have. Metalmouth, thank you so much for subscribing and following or checking out the channel. Really appreciate it. And tell your friends. What can I say? So going back to what's happening with the rallies, Melbourne at the moment, I think there's a lot of negotiations going on between the different factions who've set up their different tribal headquarters in different parts of the city and are planning on speaking from the parapets that they're going to raise and erect their microphones on. I hope some common sense is going to prevail, but I doubt it. Once again, the egos are far, far, far too involved, and there is a desperate cry for followers, right? For people to reach out and follow, ergo support. And I have no problem with that. We would love to have more of you following what we do and more of you supporting what we do. But we're not going around hijacking parades here. The Voice of Freedom, Vince and I have, I think, a pretty fair idea of the size of our audience and the strength of our audience. And it isn't the world's largest audience. It's quite simply not. It isn't one of the larger influencer ones in Australia, for that matter. What we do have, though, is a core group of followers who, for whatever reason, have decided to place their trust in me to speak openly, to speak honestly and truthfully, and give my opinion, ask my kind of questions, apply my kind of logic to everyday things that we see happening in and around our movement. And I hesitate to call it that. Like everybody else, they're over the term freedom movement. Me too. This movement has not moved anywhere at all since day one, regardless of how many parades and rallies and whistles and bells you've blown. The demonstration of what is happening in Sydney, the division, the ego, the big stage, the whole bullshit that's going on in Sydney proves we have not taken one step forward, in my opinion, because we, the people, are going to allow that to happen. We're going to say, oh, well, they're there. Oh, look, there's Cossack. Oh, look, there's Guru. Oh, look, there's John. Look at him walking around. He's got to line up for a toilet. They didn't bring one specially for him. You know, thank God there's empty water bottles lying around. This isn't a divisive second stage. This is just an air compressor for an arsehole. Blow a lot of air up an arsehole, feel really good about yourself. And it destroys our collective. It destroys our one singular focus. Because everybody who gets up on that stage will have their own little wheelbarrow to push about something. But will any of them put forward any solutions to a corrupt government that is ruling over us however the hell it feels? Will do to us whatever the hell it wants. And will continue to do it until we, the people, stand up and say no. But when we stand up and say no, we don't go home again after that. We don't. It's just, what would be the point? So we can watch Albanese or ourselves on the mainstream media being ridiculed the next day to say, when there's 100,000 people that turned up in your estimation, because you were there, but the ABC, Channel 9, Channel 7 morning shows all tell you that, oh no, there was 15,000 people who turned up. And you know that was wrong. All 100,000 of you that turned up know that figure is wrong. But do you all jam their switchboards, the mainstream media switchboards, and demand truth out of our journalists? Demand truth out of reporting? Or do you still switch on and watch, two brides pissed on a bloke somewhere, or whatever the latest fodder for television entertainment is? It's purely disgusting. I haven't watched mainstream TV and I can't tell you how long. Last time I was aware of shit that was going on out there was something to do with marrying Well, Farmers was one of them, but they were prostituting young ladies out to 40 blokes at a time, and then I think they were doing the same in reverse to the young blokes. Asking these competitors to debase themselves publicly and face some ridicule and derision once they leave, because I can tell you from a producer's point of view, there is no mileage in having a happy, friendly team, a cast that is doing everything correctly and love each other. That's boring TV. No, you've got to engineer a little enthusiasm, a little drama. And they do it so well. So I couldn't watch it, wouldn't watch it, can't be bothered with any of it. It is what it is. Have I seen what happened today with Senator Price? I heard somewhere along the line that Senator Price was excommunicated from her position in the Liberal Party because the woman whose name I can't be bothered to even try and remember, who now leads the Liberal Party, an absolutely insipid blonde piece of sorry, I'm just choking down the vomit. Anyway, that person that's leading the Liberal Party, whatever the hell that person's name is, didn't like the fact that she wouldn't, Jacinta Nabatjira Price, wouldn't bow down, kiss the ring, so to speak. I think I'm right in saying that. And Jacinta, by the looks of it, does what Jacinta does and said probably a couple of other words to go along with it. God bless her. Paul, what's this? Middle of next week, the Fed gives the 6-monthly report. That'll be interesting. Yes, it certainly will. Is that our Fed or the US Fed? Because as Ben alluded to in our chat, has anybody actually checked Fort Knox? I know somebody went in and saw one room of it, but did they bother checking any of the rest of it? Paul, Black Sheep, stop barring, mate. Shut your mouth. Somebody's going to figure out. I showed a picture of the other day. Somebody's going to figure out that under that helmet of yours, you never know what they might find. All right, just checking out a few things in the chat there, folks. We need a Tommy Robinson type. Well, Aussie Cossack would tell you he is the Aussie Robinson type. Guru would probably say he's kind of a Tommy Robinson type. And John will tell you whatever he thinks you want to hear. So if you want him to be Tommy Robinson, then he'll do that. No worries at all. The rest of them, Mary Jane, I don't think she's very Tommy Robinson-ish. I don't think Hoodie's terribly Tommy Robinson-ish. Mick Sims, don't think he's terribly Tommy Robinson-ish. So, no, you might be right. I've woken up a few people. I don't know, Paul. There isn't a rating service to find out how many people we wake up. And this is where I differ from those people I've just mentioned. I don't care how many people I pick up. I'm not here to gain subscribers. I'm not here to win over and influence people. I don't target them basically because I don't know how. I don't get on social media and push these things in ways and means and whatnot. I don't have a team behind me. There is only me. And on some days, I've got to go and do other shit, like today, where nothing gets done for this show until I get back here, and I've got to do an interview, and then I've got to cut that interview and get it on all within about 50 minutes, I think I had. So I don't have a team to help me. Aussie Cossack is surrounded by a team of people. John, by his own admission, has a huge team of people helping him at $400 each to join. And Mel and Kim have Kaz, who also has a large team around her. And you'll notice that Kaz is now playing a much more prominent role in the show. She now gets named in the show. and it's now Guru and Kaz, not Cass, Kaz, and you've seen her influence pop up in social media across various platforms as well. Now, this is not unexpected by any stretch of the imagination. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's always nice to grow your social platform. I figure my platform, this channel that you are watching now, will grow if you choose to support it. I don't want to bribe you to support it. I would love you to help the Donkey Sanctuary and help us cover a few costs by buying a ticket in our lottery. It costs $2, and you could win $750, or a fabulous Voice of Freedom prize pack, which I don't have sitting right here beside me, with an ounce of silver in it. There will be some gold we're going to give away in one of our lotteries coming up. I forget which one we're on to now. I think we've got 2 more to get through with silver, maybe 3. And we get to another gold gram we'll give away as well. But that's about all we do. And we give away the money we make out of that in most cases, or it goes to pay our bills and catch up on a few other things, like things for the bus. Registration for the bus is a big thing right here, right now. It also needs a little bit of work. Need a new motor for the steps. We need some work done on the engine, which I haven't had done yet. It's the same work. And now we're getting to a position where we have to get that done. The bus is going on the road. I'm going to the Sunshine Coast. I'm going to Victoria. I'm going, well, there's a few places I'm going to be. So I'm looking forward to catching up with people face to face, and we can win. We can do this. And ride the spiral, we must unite the clans. I agree. There's no point. And I hope some miracle. Let's pray for that. Let's pray for that. Bow your heads, folks. Dear Lord. On the 13th of September in Sydney, in Melbourne, in Brisbane, in Perth, in Darwin, in Townsville, and every other city that is rallying in the name of eradicating the corruption in our Australian government, from its highest levels to its lowest levels in council, and of course throughout the bureaucracy that is the mechanism of the machine. Pray that the people turn up in numbers strong enough that any sitting government would be ashamed to deny, and would be even worse to deny to a point where they didn't at least consider stepping down and giving the people a free shot at electing people who will make a difference. Do not let the speakers get off topic. Do not let the speakers' egos get out of control. Do not let this be a money-making event. Let this be a unifying event where 2 stages can become one, where harmony can and should play out. And we should all walk away with one message. In your name, Father, amen. I think that's the first time I've ever publicly prayed anywhere for anything. It's probably the worst prayer ever, but that's what I hope. I hope we can get a miracle. We got one for Paul. God knows. He helped. And he knows that we asked for a lot of help for Paul. Now we ask that this event, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, should have mentioned Melbourne, come together. I don't know what's going on in Brisbane. Tricky, I haven't heard or spoken to him since I think I told you he's very busy setting up this event. He works a day job as well, so he doesn't have all day just to sit around and talk to me. I fully understand that. And at night, I imagine he is busy setting this whole thing up. So Brisbane rather, I believe is going along quite well. I just don't know who's going to be talking about it, talking in there, and what they plan on saying. There are a lot of schools of thought about the main events. These Australians Unite Against government corruption in that the global organization behind these sort of protests is controlled, and many of the people associated all over the world with this protest are also controlled. That would be people like Mick Sims, the aforementioned Tommy Robinson, and anybody like maybe Darren Bergwerf, who was involved along with others in setting up Melbourne. They've all got other people involved in these committees, and every one of these people has an agenda. And it depends on the size of the personality of the person on that committee as to whether or not they actually get much input, they get heard. That's why it's very important when you do elect somebody to be your voice, make sure that person has a voice. Make sure that person is capable of standing up and speaking, representing your views strongly enough to be heard, rather than someone who just says, oh, they don't return calls. They don't, oh, I didn't want them to do that. Oh, I don't really like what they're doing there. And what would be worse then is that person switching sides. But we'll see. It's going to be a very interesting weekend. It's going to be a very interesting weekend. Farmer wants a wife. That's what one's called. All right. Let me have a bit of a glance down here, see if there's a few questions I can get through. I haven't done too much questions or too many questions in the last little while. Oh, bumper stickers. That used to be a good way. Look, if anybody knows anything about social media, or anybody wants to help get involved and try and promote this, if you feel it's worth promoting, please do it. Like I said, my goal has always been just to try and get it out of me more than anything else. If people chose to watch that, then that was just an added bonus and a bit of a blessing on me. So to see what we've grown to, and in the last couple of weeks, for a variety of different things, I've been made aware of just how important the show has become to some people who are facing at times some of the biggest challenges of their life. And that makes me immensely proud that they ordained to spend a portion of their day with me. And in many cases, it's not just with me, it's with you in the chat, because of the family that has been created there by the wonderful people that you are, and the brilliant admin team that we have curating the chat. And that doesn't mean that they kick out naysayers. That's not at all. I don't want that. I want people to be able to criticize. What I don't want them to be able to do is just be abusive, because it is the lowest form of slap, if you like. And I'm sorry, the good Lord needs to help me get better, because I quite often lower myself to that level and get quite abusive and slap them back in a variety of ways, and colourful or not, it doesn't always do us good. So I pray every night that I can become a better person. I pray that we can all come together, and I certainly pray that this weekend changes us. Now, it might be frightening to think, and I'll put this out here for the speakers on stages around the country this weekend. After what's happened with Charlie Kirk, how comfortable are you on a stage? There's just enough guns left in the Australian population for a story of a crazed sovereign citizen to be, shot trying to escape the scene of an assassination attempt on somebody at a rally this weekend. Just saying. But what if it's not an attempt? What if it is an assassination? Will it be somebody from the left shooting somebody from the right? will it be a total nonce trans person carrying a gun who shoots somebody they perceive to be a Nazi because they choose to wear a black jacket and black pants to a rally that day? Could be either side, either way, do you think? I don't know. It's bloody frightening, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility in this country. Because believe it or not, folks, and I know many of you are going to find this extremely difficult to believe, but not all the dickheads reside on the roads. There's a good many of them that hang around these kinds of events too.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!